This speaker was recorded at an Addictive Eaters Anonymous workshop held in Christchurch, New Zealand in July 2019. For more information, visit www.aeainfo.org.
Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm an addictive eater. Welcome to our second session. Would you please join me in starting the meeting with the serenity prayer? God,
grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Sobriety in AEA is freedom from addictive eating and all mind-altering substances. As a result of sobriety, AEA members have found recovery from binge eating, anorexia, bulimia, and other forms of addictive eating and compulsive exercise. Through sobriety, members find peace of mind and the ability to live a meaningful and productive life. The topic of this meeting is remember Bill, let's not louse things up, let's keep it simple. And now we will have Madonna do our meeting.
The unique ability of each AA to identify himself with and bring recovery to the newcomer in no way depends upon his learning, his eloquence, or any special individual skills. The only thing that matters is that he is an alcoholic who has found a key to sobriety. And that's from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, page 150 to 151.
Thanks, Donna. And we have one speaker for this session. Would you please welcome Esther?
My name's Esther. I'm an addictive eater.
Hi, Esther.
Tony told me I could talk for as long as I like. But I'll just keep it short because, what that reading said was that, it doesn't really matter what I say. It's just I have come here and been really lucky enough to experience sobriety but I haven't forgotten what it was like. Really what it was like is encapsulated in what it was like when I was 6 years old. I used to get a craving. I didn't call it that then, I didn't know what it was, but it was like just this feeling inside me, and it was a thought, and it wouldn't leave me alone until I went, and usually it was something I wasn't allowed. So we lived on a farm, and there was, our pantry was, always had plenty of food in it, but my parents didn't have a lot of money to spend on supermarkets, but they used to buy a few treats, each, once a month or something, and so it would have to last the whole month. But I would go think of this thing, and it wouldn't leave me alone, and I would go in there, and I would just have one, I'll just have one little square of chocolate. No one will know, but I couldn't. So as soon as I had to do it to get rid of that thought, but as soon as I had the one, then it would be keep going, and then it would be, oh my God, my mum is going to find out, and just this horrible feeling. And the times I remember is when she did catch me, there were probably a lot of times where she didn't, and she would come to me and say, did you eat this? And if I knew that if I said, yes I did, I wouldn't get in trouble, because if you told the truth you didn't get in trouble, but I couldn't tell the truth. I would lie and I'd say no, and I'd go bright red, so she knew I was lying. And just the disappointment in her, that I would do that, and then the shame, and but I would be doing it again the next week. It wouldn't stop me. And so that was kind of, that was as a little kid, and then that just for me got worse. And by the time I was in my early 20s, food didn't work anymore. So I didn't do any of the things that I wanted it to do. I would used to make me feel better, but it didn't. It made me feel worse, but I still couldn't stop. And that's when I first asked for help. And the thing that really got me to ask for help was the thinking, so I would think about food just all the time, and think about my weight, and I actually felt like I was going crazy because the thoughts just went round and round and round and round in my head, and nothing would take it away. Even eating didn't take the thinking away anymore. So that's when I first asked for help, and and I had found something, and I thought, well, I need to hold on to this. But my problem was I wasn't aware that my of myself I can't stop, and so I still tried to do it. So if you give me something really complicated to try and understand, I can do that. I'll work it out. But if you give me something really simple, I just will be baffled, and that's what I was. So, and this is really simple. Like whenever I went, when I saw this topic, I was like, well, what do I say about that? And I went and just had a look in the big book to see where that mentions simple, and it does quite a few times. When it's talking about the solution, it's simple steps. It's a simple attitude. It's a simple set of spiritual tools. The elements are simple. It keeps saying that. And the only time it mentions complex is his alcoholic problem was so complex. and that's what it was like for me. So anyway, I did come for about 7 years, and I worked really hard. I really tried hard to get this, because I did want it. And it wasn't until I gave up that I got it. And it was realising that of myself, I really can't stop. So I needed something else to help me, and that was I had to get to a point where I just really wanted one day sober off everything, and really knowing that I could not do it, and really therefore thinking, well, it's not going to happen. But I prayed, so obviously, something had got through, so I prayed, can I just have this one day? And and it kind of started from there, and it was not easy, and that's the other thing, it says simple but not easy, it wasn't easy, because I had to change all my ideas about life, because I had this, the way that I lived just didn't work, and so I had to be willing to do it differently, and that was scary for me, because I really believed that if I didn't do everything, the whole world would fall down. So, my world, but so one of the suggestions was, because I kind of ran the whole household, I was always the one who checked the oil in the car and did all of that, and I also paid all the bills and everything, and I suggested don't do that anymore. And unfortunately there was another person in the household, but don't do that anymore, and it'll be good for your marriage. And I didn't know what they were on about, because I was like, I'm going to get evicted, and the car's going to be written off, and we're going to have the power cut off and all that. How is that going to be good? Because I really thought if I didn't do it, it wouldn't happen. And I did, because I thought, well, if I don't do this, I might as well just go and eat. It really was that simple. And so I stopped doing those things, and none of those things I thought would happen happened. Actually what has happened is I now have a partnership rather than what I had before, which wasn't. And just trying to think of some of the other, like the things people suggested to do were very simple. They were just, and the big one was one day I rang up and I was full of self-pity, call me, someone said to me, "What have you done today for another addictive eater?" And I didn't have any, I don't think I had I think I might have said, "Well, I do pray for people," and the answer was, "Well, that's good." But then I started thinking, well, what can I actually do, today? Because I really didn't know if I was going to be able to stay sober today. I really didn't. So if I had one thing I could do today, that would be my chance that maybe I would stay sober today. And so, I would, just bring someone, and I became quite grateful for my service positions because I knew that was something I could do, so if it was whatever it was, that was something I could do. And and I just remember, and I was full of fear, I was miserable, and I didn't get immediately come right, it took quite a long time. And I remember I was ringing someone every day and doing, reading out of Asbel Sees It, and I would always want to get right into that reading and talk all about, analyse it. But it was just, it's just simple, we're not here to, gaze at our own navels. It's like, just the focus on the solution. And so I learnt from that, not to kind of delve into everything and get into the problem, because getting into the problem just gets more of the problem, whereas, just have to focus on the simple solution and, just taking action, that's just what I need to do. So, and there was this one day where I had the opportunity to do 2 12-step calls that day that were out of town. So it took a whole day just because of the getting there and the 2 and then coming back. And I was sitting outside on our front steps, and it was a sunny day, and I just had this feeling like everything is okay. And I had not experienced that. That was not a feeling that I experienced. I always felt like something bad's going to happen, or something's wrong, or, it was just always with me. And so to feel like that was major difference for me. And, and gradually all my things are getting sorted out, without me doing anything, so. I'm not saying they are all sorted out, but they just very gradually, something will change, something little will change, and, and I'll only see it looking back, and I can't take any credit for it because I haven't really done anything, it's just, so it is really simple, and it's, that I really hated that bit when the reading was happy, joyous and free. I never thought that I would experience that, and I'm not saying I do skip down the street every day, but I do relate to that now, which I just, it was like, felt like a light years away from where I was, and it was, I was miserable. So, and it's just really, really good to be here, and I think the new person is the most important person in the room. So, that's, so all of our experience are valuable, even if we haven't got recovery yet, that helps other people. Anyway, thank you.